All right, we are live here with a SchlossRant from the Philly suburbs. I want to talk about the New York Football Giants. Let's just jump right into it right now. Okay. You watch the Giants absolutely embarrass themselves yesterday. Baker Mayfield doing the hand gestures in the end zone, running in touchdowns. Baker Mayfield chasing down the Giants defenders to be a lead blocker on a big Irving run. This Giants team right now, you can say that they haven't quit. They're given no effort. You're looking at their top players like Dexter Lawrence standing straight up in different plays on the field, not being his dominant self. This football team has quit. You got veterans saying it. You got rookies like Neighbors saying that they've quit. The football team has absolutely quit on the head coach. This is shades of Ben McAdoo. And I know it would be a year later because Dable, of course, went to the playoffs 2 years ago. McAdoo had the team quit in the next year. But this is shades of Ben McAdoo. Now, the problem for the Giants and for all of you who say you want to keep Dable around, and I'll give my opinion on the end, whether or not I think Dable should go. The problem is you want to lose games if you're the Giants, if you're a Giant fan, if you're Giant ownership. Why? Obvious reasons. You want that quarterback. You want to be able to draft a quarterback. And if you think that Dayball is the answer, the problem is that as he continues to lose games, it doesn't make it seem like he's the answer, even though you'd like to see him get his own quarterback in there if you really do believe that he's the answer. You've got two things working in exact opposite directions, and it makes it so hard as a Giant fan to have to sit through this year after year after year where we lose games but not lose enough games. Overdraft a quarterback in 2019 with Daniel Jones. And I got no problem, by the way, with the way things transpired. No ill wishes against him. He just couldn't play. Couldn't play at the level. If you go back and check my rant about him in 2019, you'll see I disagreed with even drafting him in that spot. And of course, Jones had moments in 2022 to be happy about. But this team has just been lost, and they're in no man's land. And since 2017, them and their co-stadium partners and the Jets have had the worst record in football. Worst record in football. But right now, the biggest issue is the Giants pretty much have quit on Dable. They haven't had a lead in a game, I believe, since that Seattle game, the last game that they won. Maybe I'm wrong, but you can check that. And to have players quitting like this, it's not looking good for Dable. It's not doing anything to show us that he can be the coach and he deserves to have a quarterback of his own to draft and develop. It's not looking good, and I'm just sick of like, oh, I want them to lose, but oh, maybe if they win games, they can look a little bit better. Giant fans are sick of being put in this predicament. And what you want, what you need to be successful is you need to have the quarterback, the coach, and the GM all linked together like Kansas City, like San Francisco, where everyone is on the same page and they are all tied together at the hip. And if you fire Dayball, but you keep Shane, that's a little bit better than if you kept Dayball and fire Shane. But I'm not sure that Joe Shane is, deserves to stay either. You could definitely make the argument that you clean house, get rid of everyone, find a coach who's going to change it. And I think if you end up with a top pick, whoever the coach is, whoever the GM is, whether the two guys stay or not, you have to take a big swing. And I think if you think Shedeur Sanders can be a superstar player, can be like Lamar Jackson, can be like Patrick Mahomes, can be like Josh Allen as he continues to develop as a passer, you're going to have to take him, because the reason why the Giants have been in this malaise for the most part since 2017, you throw out 2016, throw out 2015, the end of the Coughlin era, but say since 2017, where they only made one playoff appearance with Jones, is because of poor quarterback play. It was at the tail end of Eli's career, if you go with 17 and 18 and 19, the beginning where he played. And Jones, for the most part, outside of that 2019 season where he threw 24 touchdowns in limited duty, I think only in 12 games, the quarterback play has not been elite. And that's why this team is where it is. You can say anything you want about it, the offensive line. You can continue to talk about the lack of playmakers. You can talk about letting go of Saquon Barkley. But the reason why this team has not had any success is because poor quarterback play. You got to get the quarterback right. You got to take a big swing, and you got to go try to get someone. Can't keep bringing back these DeVitos and whatever, and hope that you're going to have a superstar player, because he's not the answer. Drew Lock is probably not the answer, or else you'd see him play. You got to get the quarterback right. You got to draft someone. You didn't get it right with Jones. You had a playoff win. Okay. That's a good year, but you got to do more than that in 6 years. And Jones, I mean, it just became so frustrating. We all know, to watch him turn the ball over, to make ridiculous throws, stare down receivers. I say all this because you have to get the quarterback right, and you have to take one. You have to take a big swing. Because if you don't do this, you're going to be stuck in the mud for another 15 years. I mean, Mahomes in 2017, he was raw. He was unpolished. He took a year to sit behind Alex Smith. Jordan Love with the Packers, not anywhere on the level of Mahomes, but he sat for a few years behind Rodgers. But they took swings on guys who weren't necessarily like can't miss prospects, and they did it in the first round. Even 2018 with Lamar Jackson, there was no guarantee that he was going to be a superstar player. But the Ravens traded back into the first round. They took a big, aggressive swing. And that's what the Giants need to do, whether it's Ward, whether it's Shadir Sanders. They have to take a big, aggressive swing to get the quarterback right. If they miss, they miss. So what? Take a swing. What would be the worst thing to happen? You're right back in the same place you're in now, just going nowhere, losing your hardcore fan base who's so disinterested and so disgusted by the football team. You're wasting right now the primes of Dexter Lawrence. You're wasting the prime, and I know he's injured, of Andrew Thomas. You have, top 5 players in their positions, in 2 of the more important spots on the field, left tackle and, defensive lineman. I understand he's an interior player, not an exterior player. He's not a rush, an edge player. But you've got these 2 guys and you're wasting their career. You got to go get the quarterback right. Now, what would I do ultimately? I hate to say it, but for continued continuity's sake, I'd bring back Dable, and I'd say, you built up enough equity with that playoff win in your first year here, but I got to see more, and I got to see that quarterback develop. Now, that's also being aggressive too, in a way, because the safe thing, honestly, is just to tear everything down and try again, because then at that point, you draft a quarterback, you have a new GM, a new coach, and everyone's on the same path. Everyone's on the same track. But I think Daboll can turn it around, honestly. There's no way that he could have went from the coach of the year in 2022, and I know I'm recycling most people's takes, to a guy who can't coach now. It just doesn't make sense. He's got to get that quarterback right. So I give him a chance to fix it, because at the end of the day, you want someone who's worked with quarterbacks before, and he definitely did that with Josh Allen. That's the reason why he got the job with the Giants to begin with. So I'd give him another year, let him draft a quarterback, let him develop, and try to get it so that that quarterback with Joe Schoen, with Brian Daboll, are all on that same track and they're all tied together at the hip. Now, Saquon, I got to hit this topic one more time. Listen, he was never going to be this successful with the Giants. The Eagles have a system, a dominant system that works for him. They got a quarterback who can rush the ball. Not that the Giants didn't with Jones, but you get the idea. You've got talented playmakers on the outside with Smith and A.J. Brown. I'm not even mad that Saquon's doing this for the Eagles, because you kind of had a feeling that, okay, he's going to go to a really good situation and be good. It doesn't, make it seem like, oh, the Giants made a mistake. No, they didn't make a mistake, because they weren't in a position where that running back would be the ultimate add-on to your team. What, the Giants maybe would have won one more game this year? They're not making the Super Bowl. They're not making the playoffs. They're not winning the division, even with Saquon Barkley. So it happened that he went to a team that was the best fit. If he went to the Houston Texans or the Jacksonville Jaguars, you wouldn't be saying anything. I can't get bogged down about, a running back. I'm just not going to do it. The Giants have, I think, 100 less rushing yards out of Singletary and Tracy combined, and they're paying those 2 guys like a third of Barkley's salary. So you can't get all upset about a running back. And I know he's amazing. He's dominant. He's a Hall of Fame type of talent. But I've been saying this for a long time. I said if he stayed with the Giants, that he could have been Barry Sanders. It wouldn't have changed anything. They weren't going to win a Super Bowl just because of him. You need that elite, dominant quarterback play. Now, let me talk about the other team in MetLife Stadium, or Pathetic Life Stadium, whatever you want to call it, or no life stadium. I've even heard it referred to. There's a growing sentiment amongst Jet fans, amongst WFAN callers specifically, that the Jets should bring back Rex Ryan. Listen, that might make you feel good, Jet fans, and on one day might make it that you're happy you win the press conference that day. You get all the press clippings, about what an amazing move this is. The only guy in recent memory that had any type of success with the Jets. But if you're the Jets, you want someone who's going to be an innovative offensive mind to come in. And if you draft a new quarterback, one that needs to be developed, you want him to, be the one who does that with a good coach, good offensive coach. I think can still maybe be a pretty good coach. I think he can maybe take the Jets or anybody else to the playoffs. But I think the Jets, in order for you to get out of your streak of not winning a Super Bowl since Super Bowl III or not even being into one, is you've got to go find an offensive coach and a guy who knows what he's doing and a guy who's going to develop a quarterback that you draft, even if that quarterback is not drafted right away in the first round, with an early pick, because you're not going to have an early pick. Not going to be one of the top 2 or 3 teams. You got to go find someone who can develop that quarterback. Rex will make you feel good in the short term, but he's not going to make you feel good in the long term. And I don't think I'm saying anything too controversial. All right, let's talk about real quick the Yankees and Soto. Then we're going to get into my favorite topic, which is the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame. I'm going to plead my case for a handful of players. Listen, all these reports about Soto and the Mets pretty much not being a done deal, but the Mets being in the front runner. Are you people, and maybe I'm just seeing this with Yankee colored glasses, but are you people not aware of the fact that maybe Boris, his agent, is trying to just drum up the Yankees to get a higher offer? That this information is not being leaked to try to create even more leverage for Soto? Let's not forget, this is a guy who turned down a $440 million contract offer or contract extension with the Washington Nationals. That's what led him to be traded twice in like 2 years. No one could sign him. The Nats couldn't sign him. He wasn't going to accept anything San Diego was offering. He definitely wasn't going to accept anything the Yankees were offering in the middle of the season. So don't be surprised if Boris is just using the Mets to drive up that offer. And don't be surprised if the Yankees pay it, because for 2 reasons. One, they saw what the lineup was like before Soto was in there. They saw the team struggle when it was left all up to Judge. And now you see what it's like with Soto in the lineup. And you see that he lengthens and extends that Yankee lineup and makes more players fearful, and other people get better pitches to hit. So Boris throwing out the Mets out there, try to drive up that offer. I think at the end of the day, I think he's getting $700 million. I think he's getting almost as much as Ohtani. So 700 is what Ohtani got. Forget about deferrals, just straight, cash on the table, what the contract's worth. I think he's going to get about what Ohtani got, $700 million. I just think that this is a unique situation where the Mets want him, the Yankees need him. They're going to bid each other up. There's going to be all types of leaks going on right now about what we're seeing, where people are saying the Mets are the front runner and it's pretty much done. I think that's just going to get to that point, and it's going to be like with Cashman and with Steinbrenner. Are you really going to let this guy go? Like, what's the amount of money you're willing to not pay him? It's not like you're only offering 400 and the Mets are offering 650. It's all right. Your initial offer might have been at 625. You really going to let him walk for maybe, 5 or 10 million over the course of 15 years? So Boris will just keep bidding him up, but the Yankees got to bring him back because he's fun to watch. And they didn't make a World Series for 15 years till he showed up. Magically, he shows up. He's that clutch home run, puts him in the World Series in extra innings against the Cleveland Guardians. In that ALCS. Then, of course, lost to the Dodgers, which I'm still not over. I mean, Judge dropping that ball was just the, the icing on the cake. So just ridiculous. All right, now, one more note actually on the NFL. I know we're swinging all over the place, baseball. One more note. It used to be that in the NFL, when talking about from a wagering standpoint, there would be these guys that people would say sharps, or he's an insider, he moves the lines, a real sharp guy. He's not a square. He's not walking around with duct tape on his shoes, like some of the squares were. I don't think that that's the case anymore. I think that, quite frankly, the sharps are now the public. Let me give you an example why. In public are just people going up, small denominations, walking up to the window there in Vegas, or on one of the sites on their phone. yesterday, and this is from Bleacher Report, 84% of the bets on the Bucks laying 6 points. 84% of the Broncos laying 5.5. 81% Lions laying 7.5. 79% Chiefs minus 10.5. That did not come home. And of the last one of these five, 76% on the Eagles laying the 3 points. So of the 4 or 5, I should say, most heavily one-sided games, all of which where you're laying points, only one of them lost. 4-1 record, 80% clip. That's all public. The public is the new sharps. I think that there was a time in the NFL in which you could bet on bad teams like the Raiders, like the Giants, like the Jets now. And you'd say, oh, it's too much points for them to get at home in a divisional game. And it, doesn't happen anymore. Maybe this is not a long-term trend, but yesterday specifically, just ridiculous that, these favorites are just covering and the Lions are just on a fast track there on the road, but they're still laying 7.5 points. You figure, oh, that's, Colts, I'll take more than a touchdown. A big win against the Jets the week before. But no, I think that these lines are being set where it's, if you think a team is just awful, just pick the favorite. You got nothing to worry about. They're all covering. So used to be a time, like I said, where you wouldn't want to lay this many points. You say that's far too many points to lay in a division game like that Raiders-Bronco game. But now I just don't think it matters. I think you could look at these spreads and look at these games and say, that team is so much worse. I'll lay the points with the other team. No big deal. I think that's what's going on now. So I bring that up to say just the sharp guy that used to exist might not exist anymore. I don't know if this is going to be forever, but for this week's especially, it's definitely a trend. All right, now let's get into that MLB Hall of Fame talk, because I've got some guys on the ballot that I'm voting for and other guys where, you might be more inclined to vote for. And I was able to get in touch with an actual voter and I asked him his opinion. So I'm just going to pull this up so we can, kind of reference what they said. So anyways, here's my ballot. Here's the guys that I'd be voting for in this particular year. It's Bobby Abreu, Carlos Beltran, Andrew Jones, Manny Ramirez, Alex Rodriguez, CC Sabathia, first time on the ballot, Ichiro, first time on the ballot, and also Andy Pettitte. All right. Now, when I say Manny and I say A-Rod, you have to understand, I have no problem putting the steroid guys in. I still think you got to hit the ball. I think that so many guys were doing it. The fact that, most of the guys who failed these tests with the Yankees, with the Red Sox, that's who they were testing in the survey test back in 2003, whether it be Manny, whether it be Big Papi. Big Papi is in the Hall of Fame, and he did show up on that. It was ridiculous that he's got a pass, and I could scream about it all day. But my counter is just I'm putting A-Rod in and I'm putting Manny in too, even though Manny was a Red Sox. But I come at this with an unbiased opinion. If you have Ortiz in the Hall of Fame, I got no problem with Manny and A-Rod getting in. Otherwise, I think you're being a hypocrite, because they were all on that test in 2003, the survey testing. And yeah, I think you got to put them in. I think you still got to hit the baseball. Now, let's talk about Abreu. So Abreu's on the list. The steroid guys, Ramirez and A-Rod, the numbers are there. It's really just, do you want to vote for the steroids? Because if there wasn't for steroids, they'd be in already, not even a question. Now, Abreu, you're probably saying, if you're listening to me, Bobby Abreu is not a Hall of Fame player. I disagree with that. I think that in a time in which on-base percentage and walks have been so heavily elevated, this guy had a 395 on-base percentage. And there's a stat where, WAR, wins above replacement. Joey Gallo, the, former Yankees first baseman, DH outfielder, guy, all or nothing type of guy. He had like the same WAR as Vinny Castilla did. And I know I'm bringing up a player from the 90s, but in a year which Vinny Castilla hit over 30 home runs and over 100 RBIs, in the same season in which Joey Gallo went like hitless for like 100 at-bats or something. And their OPSs were the same. They were like 833. Or maybe it was WAR. Something was the same. I should really look this up and stop being so irresponsible. But the point is, there is an emphasis nowadays on getting on base. And we all know this. I'm not saying anything crazy. But I think that that's hard to ignore with Abreu, a 395 on base percentage, and 840 something OPS. And, this is a guy where he drove in over 1,400 runs. He, he's only an all-star a couple of times. I just think he really just fell through the cracks. Honestly, I'm going to pull up his full numbers right now, so I'm making a total and succinct argument. But Abreu, he played for a million teams. That's not going for him. He played for the Phillies, the Yankees, the Mets, the Dodgers at the end. But let's look at Abreu's numbers real quick throughout the major leagues. And you'll see that honestly, like, these numbers are pretty darn legit. So in the major leagues, Bobby Abreu, and I just lost it here, but Bobby Abreu, 2,470 hits. He had 574 doubles, 288 home runs, which is not a lot, 400 steals. How many guys are we leaving out of the Hall of Fame with 400 steals and a 395 on base percentage? I'd love to know. Love to know. Probably not many. Guy had 1,476 walks to 1,840 strikeouts. That's pretty good nowadays when, big time hitters are striking out 180, 190 times a season. Abreu's a Hall of Famer. I'm sorry. 400 steals, 1,363 runs driven in, 1,453 runs scored, almost 2,500 hits, a 291 average if you want to go old school stats, 870 career OPS. I'm sorry, this guy's a Hall of Famer. This guy is a Hall of Famer. You put Harold Baines in, Bobby Abreu's numbers are way better than him in everything but home runs, but he wasn't necessarily a home run hitter. And I think if there's anything that's going to keep him out, it's that. Let's take a look. I like to count up, and I stole this from the great Christopher Mad Dog Russo. How many Hall of Fame type seasons did he have? So we take a look now. Bobby Abreu. I'm going to continue to make the argument for him. And we'll go by, I'm just going to go by even honestly homers and RBIs. And I just said he's not a big time home run hitter. But 1999, 20 homers and 93 RBIs for the Phillies, 25 and 79. So yes, those are Hall of Fame seasons, especially if you throw in the fact that 99, he hits 335, 2000, he hits 316, 446 on base percentage in 1999, 416 on base percentage in 2000. So let's do this. Let's use the average, the on base percentage, and the homers and the RBIs just to make a nice, well-rounded argument. 2001, in 2001 for the Phillies, he goes 31 and 110. Pretty darn good. 289 average, 394 on base. Takes a little dip in both. 2002, Bobby Abreu, 20 homers, 85 RBIs, 308 and 413. 2003, 20 homers, 101 RBIs, 300 average, 409 on base percentage. 2004, 30 home runs, 105 batted in, 301 average, 428 on base percentage. 2005, 24 homers, 102 driven in, 286 average, 405 on base percentage. This is a solid chunk of time from 1999 to 2005. And then even 2006, all right, only 15 home runs, but 107 RBIs. This is with the Yankees and the Phillies. 297 average, 424 on base percentage. 2007 with the Yankees, 283 average, 369 on base percentage, 16 homers, but 101 driven in. 2008 with the Yankees, 20 homers, 100 RBIs, 296 average, 371 on base percentage. Angels in 09, 15 homers, again, not a lot, but 103 driven in. So from 99 to 09, he's pretty much driving in almost 100 runs every single year, with the exception of 2000, where he only drove in 79. And the on-base percentage numbers every year, but let's see here, 08, 371 on base, 07, 369. Outside of those 2 years, he's above or at 390 on base percentage for 9 out of 11 seasons. 395 career on base percentage. He's a Hall of Famer. I'm sorry. I mean, you have to do a deeper dive on the numbers. And again, he's not really associated with one team, maybe Phillies more than any other team, but he's a Hall of Famer. I'm not taking no for an answer. 295 average, 395 or 291 average, 395 on base percentage, a 475 slugging, 870 OPS. He's a Hall of Famer. If you don't agree with me, You're not looking at his numbers objectively and honestly. Bobby Abreu is a Hall of Famer. You might not like it, but Bobby Abreu is no doubt about it, a Hall of Famer. All right, let's go to the next guy on my list. The next guy on the list that I said was Abreu, a former Yankee, another former Yankee, Carlos Beltran, cup of coffee with the Yankees, pretty much a few seasons. Beltran, switch hitter, clutch home runs. I'm going to pull up his stats. We're going to use them to make an argument here. But the gist of Beltran is we all remember that 04 postseason with the Astros. This is another guy who's not really associated with one team. He played for a million of them. Yankees, Mets, Cardinals, Astros, two stints of duty with the Astros, Royals, Texas Rangers even for a season, and San Francisco Giants and Cardinals. I mean, so many different teams. Mets 7 years, Royals 7 years, but you really think of Beltran probably with Houston, even though he's only there for 2 years, just because of the just dominance in the postseason. Let's give you that postseason average for Beltran. Show postseason batting. Carlos Beltran in his career in the postseason was a 307 hitter with a 412 on base, 609 slugging, good for 1,021. So let's start off right there. Dominant postseason player. Even for 2017, 2017 with the Astros, you got 6 plate appearances, 3 at bats, 6 plate appearances, 5 at bats. In the ALCS against the Yankees, he got 12 at bats, and he only hit 083. All right, but fine. Don't count that, but count, obviously 04. And even in 2012 with the Cardinals, he was pretty good too. 2013 with the Cardinals, he was pretty good. Hit 294 in the World Series. Mets in 06, we remember that strikeout against Wainwright in the 06 NLCS. But even then, I mean, he's still at 296 for the playoffs in that series. So, I mean, just the 04 numbers are just stupid. NLCS, 4 home runs. NLDS, 4 home runs. 455 average in the NLDS, 417 average in the ALCS, that Cardinal team. And that was the NLCS, by the way, not the ALCS, because the Astros used to be in the NL, of course. All right. Beltran, we knew about the dominant postseason. We didn't really need to look it up, but we, wasted a few minutes there. So again, I'm going to use the Christopher Mad Dog Russo way of going about this. We're looking at Hall of Fame type seasons, and I'm going to stick with homers, RBIs, batting average, and on-base percentage. So 99 Royals, 22 homers, 108 RBIs. Yeah, he's on the right track. 293 average, 337 on base. Not great, but good enough. 24 and 101 in 2001. Looks like 2000. I don't remember this, but he only played in 98 games. 2002, 29 homers, 105. So now we're at 3 seasons. 2003, 26 and 100 with a 307 average, 389 on base. 2004 with 2 teams, obviously the Royals and the Astros, 38 and 104, 267 hitter, not great, 367 OP or on base percentage, not great, but the homers and RBIs are good enough. So now we're at 5 seasons, and it's only 2004. 2005 with the Mets, 16 and 78. That's not a Hall of Fame season, but 06 with the Mets, 41 and 116, 275 average, 388 on base percentage. Yes. 03 with the Mets, 33 and 112, 276 average, 353 on base. Yes. So now we're at 07, 06, 04, 03. We're at like 7 Hall of Fame seasons already. 08 with the Mets, 27 and 112, 284 on base, 376 on base, 284 average. Yeah, that's another Hall of Fame season. So we keep going here. And we get to 2011, 22 and 84. We'll say yes because he had a 300 average that year. 2012 with the Cardinals, 32 and 97. 2016 with the Yankees and the Rangers, 29 and 93 with a 295 average, 337 on base percentage. He's a Hall of Famer. He did enough. He had 435 home runs, 1587 driven, and I know it's because he played for so long. Stole 312 bases. 837 OPS. That's lower than Abreu's, by the way, at 870. So pleading my case here with Abreu. Beltran's a Hall of Famer. And I think if you're on the fence, just look at the postseason numbers, which are just off the charts. Beltran, definitely a Hall of Famer. All right, next player. Andrew Jones. This is another player that's controversial. We just mentioned Beltran's Hall of Fame numbers there with the home runs. Andrew Jones has about the same number of home runs. Yeah, 434, and I said Beltran was at 430. Let's see, just for to make sure we got the comparison right. 434 to 435. So virtually the same number of home runs, Andrew Jones versus Beltran, Jones with one less. Now, the thing about Andrew Jones is he comes on in 96 in the playoffs against the Yankees. And, he pretty much wrecks your life if you're a 6-year-old, 7-year-old New York Yankee fan there in Valley Stream, New York, because he just dominates, hits home runs in, the first 2 games, whatnot. But that wasn't even really his rookie year, because he comes back in 97, top 5 finishing rookie of the year. And hits 18 homers, 70 RBI. So still not quite a Hall of Fame season, but let's go through them here. 98, 31 and 90, the 271 average. Yeah. 36 and 80 or 26 and 84. Yes. In terms of homers and RBIs, 36 and 104. Yes. 34 and 104. Yes. 35 and 94. Yes. 36 and 116. Yes. 29 and 91. Yeah. That's close enough to 30 and 100. So yes. So now we're at 97, 98, 99. That's 3. 2004. 2001 is 5. 2002 is 6. 2003 is 7. 2004 is 8. 2005, 100% as a Hall of Fame season, 51 and 128 with a 263 average. So his average and on base is not the best, but we're at a Hall of Fame season pretty much from 98 to 05. 06, same thing, 41 homers, 129 driven in, 262 average. The problem from there is he has one more good year in 2007, 26 and 94, but only hits 222 to 311 on base. So basically from 98 to 06, that's 9 seasons, all, 100% Hall of Fame player. But he just falls off a cliff after that. Andrew Jones then goes to the Dodgers, plays 75 games, only hits 3 homers in those 75 games, hits 158. Goes to Texas, hits 214. 17 homers, 43 RBI, so he contributed. Goes to the White Sox, 19 and 48 with a 230 average, 341. Goes to the Yankees, 13 and 33, 247 average, 356 on base, and just falls off a cliff. Yankees in 2012, 14 homers, 34 RBIs, 197 average. If you stopped his career after 2007, I mean, it's not like he added that much. He did a little bit in the home run department. He added, let's see here, 39 and 27, makes 66. So he adds 66 home runs, but he already had over 350 at that point, 360, 370. So if you would have cut it off there, then yeah, he's a Hall of Famer. His career numbers don't look, over the top. Amazing 254 average, 337 on base, but the power's there, 486 slugging. You throw in, though, with Jones, his defense. Defense is unbelievable. He's got to be a Hall of Famer. You throw in the fact that he hit 434 home runs in his career, drove in 1289. I think he's a Hall of Famer. He played 17 years, but 96 doesn't really count, 31 games. And then at the end, he was just so bad with some of these teams. It really, I'm not going to say it kills his candidacy, because I still think he's a Hall of Famer, but his career fell off at the age of 30. That was his last good year with the Braves, where he, like I said, 26 and 94. So I think he's a Hall of Famer because I think you have to weigh in his defense, and everyone, knows about his defense and amazing over the shoulder catches. A-Rod, we already covered. We're not going to break him down. CC. Now, pitching is kind of harder for me to break down because, you can look at all the numbers with strikeouts and you can look at all the wins, but wins is not really the best category, obviously, to go off of. So I'm going to break down CC Sabathia by using a Hall of Fame comparison tool that I'm going to pull up from Baseball Reference, because I think that that's the best way to, break down CC Sabathia. Let's just forget about the numbers. 08, he has the dominant season after he gets traded to the Brewers mid-season, and, he pitches on 3 days to rest to get him into the playoffs all the time, and just absolutely dominant with the Brewers. So that right there, if you're kind of on the fence, just revisit that 08 season, revisit the following year with the Yankees, 09, dominant pitcher in the postseason. Not as good, but, he won games for them. All right, but let's just take a look here. Postseason pitching, then we'll we'll go with the Hall of Fame comparison tool. So the Yankees, yeah, 09 ALCS MVP. I was not misremembering this. 113 ERA, 329 ERA in the World Series for the Yankees in 09. In the division series, he gets one start, but pretty good start. 1.35 ERA, 6 2/3 innings. 6 2/3 innings, and only gives up 2 runs. So maybe it wasn't one. Yeah, that is 1.35 ERA. Oh, 1 earned run. Two, it must have been an error. 2 runs, 1 earned run. So yeah, he gives up for the Yankees in 09. He gives up let's see, 5, 7, 8 earned runs in let's see, like 36, 37 innings. So yeah, solid performance. And overall, his career postseason, he is let's see, CC Sabathia. Overall, 4.28 ERA. So not amazing, but some of it was kind of falling off with the Yankees at the end. So, some bad postseasons too with Cleveland, I should say. And the one time he was in there with Milwaukee, not great either. But he did amazing to get them to that point. So let's look at the Hall of Fame comparison tools on Baseball Reference, and we can kind of see what's going on here. So Hall of Fame monitor, which I've noticed for my comparison, there's 5 of them: black ink, gray ink, Hall of Fame monitor, Hall of Fame standards. Hall of Fame monitor has been the most friendly for guys that I've been looking at. Likely Hall of Famer is 100. CC is at 128 for whatever that means. Gray ink, he's right there, 174, where an average Hall of Famer is 185. Black ink, he's at 22, where an average Hall of Famer is at 40. So that one doesn't make him look as good. And the last one, Hall of Fame standards, 48, where the average Hall of Famer is 50. So even by going by those metrics, he's right on the border. It's hard for me to look at these pitching stats and say Hall of Famer, not Hall of Famer. You can look at WAR. You can look at how many seasons maybe he's at 6 or above. Cleveland in 07, 6.7 WAR. Yankees in 09, 6.2. Yankees in 2011, 6.4. Other seasons, 4.8 WAR in 2010. I thought CC would have had more All-Star appearances, but he had 6. Again, we can't really go off win-loss record because I just don't think it's as accurate enough. 3.74 ERA, so maybe it's on a little bit of the higher side, but I think his numbers overall are pretty comparable to Mike Mussina. And of course, CC had over the 3,000 strikeouts total for his career. So I'm not mad if you don't bring him in, but I think overall he is a Hall of Famer. All right, next guy, Ichiro. Ichiro over 3,000 hits, dominant player, over 300 average. I don't think there's really any debate there. And then Andy Pettitte is another guy where I'm putting in solely based on the clutch postseason performance. And if you heard what I said with Manny and A-Rod, where I think that I'm okay with the HGH PED guys getting in. So that's my Hall of Fame ballot. Giants got to get it together. SchlossRant, live, Philly suburbs. We'll see you later, everybody.